3, 2, 1.
Excellent. Let me
Yeah.
share my
So
screen so you
we're
can see what I'm
live.
doing. There it
Cool.
is.
So what are we going to do today?
Well, following along the creation of the shooter game, the idea is to create more mechanics that are usually used with this type of games. We already have the ability to shoot stuff, and we worked with components, so everything that we have here, even those cubes, well, if I added them, we can make it so whenever we shoot them, then we can move them or do something with it, right? So now we need to develop a little more of basic stuff that, um, I mean, anyone that will be building a type of game like this could find useful. For example, the sprint mechanic. We're gonna not only go through the logic part, also we're gonna make a little animation that you can use that as a placeholder and everything inside the engine. Also, we want to have a way to know if we we have enough bullets for us to shoot. So we will do a reload mechanic, but this reload mechanic also encapsulates the clip and the maximum of bullets. So if, for example, this gun holds 30 weapons, the 30 bullets, then we won't have a problem. So whenever the clip reaches to 0, then it stopped firing, right? So that's what we are gonna do right now.
Hey, so it's the sprinting and do the reloading mechanic.
Yeah. For the reloading, I do not have an animation at hand. If there is a little bit of time, maybe we can do that also, but I'm gonna show that process with the sprinting, so there shouldn't be any problem with that. I'm just let me also open the comments. I know you will check them, but just to have it at hand.
Yeah.
Perfect. So let's start. First, we said that we wanted the sprint mechanic.
Wait.
Yeah.
Wait a second. I was thinking about maybe we could give away the code we make if there is enough interest in the in this live stream. So if we reach like 10,000 views in the next month, then we will give away the code so you can use it in your projects entirely free. So if you really want the project, share it with your friends and make sure you watch the stream so we can continue to do this type of classes and content.
Yeah.
It's a win-win for everyone.
Sounds great.
So let's see. Let's see if we can reach it.
Yeah. And if that's the case, then maybe at the end we can do a little cleanup of the project, so it's easier to share.
For sure.
And let's remind our community that last stream we created this simple map. Mauricio went through all the basics and all the rules of level design. So he was talking about a lot about making your map less boring, and part of how you can also solve, for example, this long corridor here, we added verticality here and obstacles, but you don't have to feel like too bored walking here if you are also going through that distance more quickly. So the sprint will help a lot in this type of scenarios. So what do we need for the sprint? We first need to press a button and do the sprint, right? So let's set the input. We will go to settings, we will go to project settings, and here we have inputs in engine, and we need an action mapping. The difference between these is that the action mappings just know if your button is pressed or released, and axis mapping can give you a float value depending on the state of the button. We just need to know if it's pressed or not. So let's add an action mapping here. I'm gonna call it sprint, and I'm gonna select a key value and press left shift. So now we have a button that does exactly what we want to do. Let's open our character, and yeah, it's this one. Here in the world settings, if there is no game mode, it means that in our project settings we set the game mode here in maps and modes, so we can find it here on default game mode. So let's search it, and it's right here. This is our game mode. I'm looking for the game mode because I don't remember what the default bound class is. Here it is, first person character. Let's search again, and here we have all the functionality to fire and, well, to attach the gun and create the gun. So just like we jump, we need to create a sprint mechanic. Well, an sprint is just a way of modifying the current speed of my character, so it's really simple. We can make it really simple. Just right click, input action. Oh, I can press sprint, and here is my action event. Now we need to change the speed. If we're using a character, which in our case we are, you can find it here, parent class character. Then you can go here to the character movement component, and here we will have a max walk speed. If we change this to, I don't know, a high value like 3000, we can play, and let me pop up the window, and we will reach higher speeds because that's the way that component is made. So we just need to change that value. So max walk speed is the value we want to change. Let me return it to our default one. And so when I press sprint, let's drag and drop the component, and let's set the max walk speed. And when I press it, I want it to be like up high enough value so I can notice it for now, then I can tweak it later. And when I release it, I want it to be a default value. I can copy and paste this. I want it to be the default value that was 600. So let's test it. Play. And I press shift, and I start moving faster. I release shift, and we return to our default speed. So really simple, right? So here,
Yeah, that one looks like you're using like a hover shoes. It's like just sliding. But the logic is there.
yeah, we now can tweak the values, and and get it where we want it to be, right? So having random values in our code is really not a good practice, because let's say we return to this project like in 2 months, I will not know exactly why I put this here, why I put this number, or what is this number even meaning. So we need to make it to variables, so it's easier for us to understand later. This one is the default walk speed, so let's call it that. Default max walk speed. And I mistype the default. And this is the sprinting one, so let's call it like that also. So now it's really clear that we can give this blueprint to a game designer, and he or she can tweak these values default, and that person will not have to look around or search for these nodes. That it's cool if that person knows how to work with blueprints, but it will be easier for the designers to just go to the class defaults and find it. Oh, we have, let me compile. We have a default max walk speed and a sprint max walk speed. And it's easier to change it that way than going through all the nodes and searching. Now, we need the animation, right? And before doing the animation, we were talking about good practices. In my case, and this is a type of preference, I like to keep the inputs very simple, like this, like jump or stop jumping, instead of having all the code near the input. So I will make a custom event really quickly that says start sprinting, and one that is called stop sprinting. And I will reconnect my nodes like this. And I'm gonna copy and paste this component just to be more independent between these two events. So now I can move these events here, where I have a lot more space, and I can put my input action of a sprint. Let's call it start sprinting. And when I release, I want to stop sprinting. Great. Now it's working exactly the same. So let's change the animation. It will be good for us if we have a way here to know if it's sprinting or not. We just don't want to check the value, this value, because our max walk speed could change for any other reason, right? So it's good to create a variable so we can store this state. Let's call it is sprinting. And whenever we start the sprinting, let's put it to true. And whenever we stop, let's change it to false. Perfect. Now we can start changing the animation. We will need to work with the animation blueprint. In order to find which animation blueprint this character is using, just click on the skeletal mesh, and you can find it here in the category of animation. First person animation blueprint, let's find it. And here it is. If you have never worked with an animation blueprint, you just need to know that the animation blueprints have two important tabs. One is the event graph, where we will get all the information of our character. For example, we are getting if it's in air, and if it's moving. So we can change the animation depending on these states. And then we have the animation graph. And in this graph, what we're doing is setting up the animations based on the states of the variables that we got previously. In this case, we're using a state machine. We can double click the state machine. And here we have declared all the states that our character could have. So we have an idle, a run, animate and run state, jump start, jump loop, and jump end. This state changes depending on these movement rules. For example, here, if I double click, it's asking if it's moving. So if I'm moving, and that variable is being set up in the event graph here, depending on the velocity. So if I'm moving, let's press play. And let me, here it is. Oh, it's not detecting my character, so I can choose this one here, spawn. So this graph can light up. Here it is. So when I move, it changes the state. If I jump, it goes to a jump start, jump loop, and jump end. So that's great. It's working properly. Here we could add a state for it to go to a sprint, but because we want the animation to be smooth, we want it to do a blend between the run and the sprint. First, let's create the sprint animation. Let's just double click on the run, and we will use this as a base animation. Now, it will be good for us to add the weapon so we know what's happening. So let's go to the skeleton tree here, and this character that came with the first person shooter example had a socket that you can create by, I don't know, go hand, right click, and add a socket here, and you can move it around. But if you already have a socket, then you can right click it, add preview asset, and let's find our gun. Here it is. So now we know what's happening better. Now, when we're sprinting, we do not want to have our gun going forward, right? We want it to be rotated to one side. So let's do that. We would need to modify, and here in the skeleton tree, you can find the hand. And if we want to add some animation, we can add a key. So let's stop the animation. Let's go to a first frame, and then we can key it with our hand selected. Let me press key. And now I can rotate it like this and key it again just to be sure that the change has been made. So now that we have rotated that bone, if we press play, then it's a little better. Now, maybe it's too near my body, so I won't see it. So let me tweak the lower arm also. Let's go to a first frame, key it, and move it just a little bit, and key again. And let me fix a little bit of the arm. Yeah, now it should be better. And we can also fix this part of the arm, the left arm. So let's go to the left arm. This is the right one. We don't want to mess too much with the clavicle. The upper arm. Oh, and I forgot to key this. Yeah, a little key there. Key again, and the lower arm also. This is a little bit tedious, but it will give us a better effect. Git here.
We'll remove the snapping too.
Yeah,
Can
but
be less painful.
yeah, that's true. So it doesn't snap like this, but I believe that it gave us like the correct locations for now. Our camera would not be able to see this, probably, so I'm gonna leave it like this. We can fine tune it later. But yeah, if you want to remove the snapping because animating with a snap is really troublesome, you can do it here for the movement, and for rotation you can disable it right here, so you have a lot more freedom, and that's even better actually. So yeah, good point. So we won't be able to see this animation even though we have modified a first person run. If we try to see it here in my game, we won't be able to see it. If we wanted to use this as an additive animation, because we are creating additive layer tracks, we would need here to, in asset details, instead of no additive, in additive settings, we would need to change it to local space or mesh space. But in my case, I want this to be an other animation. So here I can create an asset, create animation, current animation, and preview mesh. So it's getting all the current animation. And let me save it. Where's my character, mesh, textures, material, animations. And I believe all my animations were called, let me call it a sprint, then we can rename it to the proper name. So we have created the sprint here. I'm gonna save it. I'm gonna go to the animation blueprint and I'm gonna test it. Here in the asset browser, sprint, let me replace the run like this, compile, save. Let me press Alt P so we can play. And now we have the sprint animation. Yeah, so it's working. But what I would like to do is blend these two animations. So what I'm gonna do is create a little thing called a blend space. And this transposing the gun, this is a bug. Yeah, it's a bug. As I said, you could fix it later in the animation. So yeah, let's not worry too much about it. So everything is called first person underscore run. Well, underscore the action. So let's call our sprint that. And we want to create a blend between the run and the sprint. So let's create what it's called a blend space. We can right click here, animation, and I just need to do a blend space in one dimension because it's gonna be really simple. So let's choose blend space 1D. Let's choose our character that it should be arms skeleton. And let's open the blend space that we just created. Let's call it BS for blend space. And it should be run sprint. Let's double click the blend space, and here I'm gonna need to select the animations we want to blend, and it can be more than two, but in our case I'll show you how to blend between a run and a sprint. So here we have the run. Let's drag and drop it to the start. Now we have the run animation, and now we have the sprint. Let's drag and drop it to the end. So now we haven't seen any change, but here we see that it says hold shift to move the preview point. Let's hold shift. And now my preview point can change between Currently is the value of 0 and 100, but if this value moves gradually, then the animation is blending to the sprint one. Now we're in a sprint, and we can see the blend easier if I move it quickly. So now we need to use this asset. So first we have to tweak a little bit of the settings here in this asset. I really don't want it to be like from 0 to 100 because I do not know what it really means, like what's 100. So let's keep it simple. Here I will change in the axis settings. 0, it's okay for a start, and 1 should be my new value. Instead of having none here, I will call this an alpha, because we just need to change between 0 and 1 in order for this asset to change. Great. So now I can save this asset, and now I can go back to the animation blueprint, and instead of having these two values, I can use a blend space here. And just as a small caveat, we could also blend, we can blend animations here, blend, and we can do an alpha, and it will be almost the same. But if you wanted to add an state, then you would need to blend again, like do something like this. So it's easier to manage everything in a blend space. So that's why I have done it this way, even though we're using only 2 animations. So yeah, now the run sprint is being controlled by this alpha. So if we compile and this alpha changes, then it would change my animation. We need this to be a variable because we do not want it to be always the same value. So let's right click it, promote to a variable, and let's call it sprint alpha. Now this is the value that I will need to change, and I need to change it in the event graph. So somewhere here I should set up that value, something like this, sprint alpha, and we set the value here. We need to get that value from the character, so let's go to the character, and in the event graph I had these values. I need that to create that alpha value in order for my animation blueprint to use it. So let's create a timeline here, so we can have more control of the change in the animation. So let's right click, timeline, and I'm gonna call it the sprint. When I start sprinting, I want it to play, and when I stop sprinting, I want it to reverse. So my timeline is gonna drive that alpha value, and I should create that value like variables sprint alpha, and I'm gonna set it to float. Now with my timeline, I can choose to create curves that can help me drive any value. So let's double click it, create a float track, and this will change any value, well, any float value I want. This track, I'm gonna call it sprint alpha, and I'm gonna create the keys. I can right click it and add a key. In the start, I want it to be 0 and the value also 0, and I'm gonna change the length to 1, and I can also shift click inside this to create a key. So when time is 1, I want the value to be 1. So now I have my curve. If I needed more functionality, more control, I can right click and change the curve. change the tangents. But for now, yeah, this looks like a good curve. So let's keep it like this. Let's compile, save, and go back to my event graph. Now I have this sprint alpha, and now I can change this sprint alpha value in the update node. This update will start running whenever we press play and whenever we press reverse. So this sprint alpha value should change like this. Now we need to connect this sprint alpha with the sprint alpha of the first person animations. First, let's compile and save here in my first person character. And now let's use this node try get pawn owner. This will try to get the pawn that contains this animation blueprint. In our case, this first person character has this skeletal mesh, and this skeletal mesh has the animation blueprint. So when it tries to get the owner pawn, then it's getting this blueprint, this first person character blueprint. Now we need to cast it to our first person character.
I'm getting it. Believe it or not.
Excuse me?
I'm getting it. After so many times watching blueprints, I'm starting to get the hang out of it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We can get, now that we have cast this class, that because this is just a pawn object, this class does not know about our sprint value. So after casting it, we can ask about the sprint alpha, and it can be get, and we can set the sprint alpha inside this blueprint. So now let's check if it's working correctly. Let's press play. I'm moving without sprinting. If I press sprint, then it's gradually changing to my sprint. It's a little slow right now, so let's fix it a little bit. I created this timeline. We can move the values here, but we would need to change it every time we want to tweak it. And I do not like to change my timelines too much. So we can modify the play rate. Let's get the component. I double click the component, I'm sorry. Just drag and drop it, get, and at the start sprinting, we can change the play rate. Set play rate. And we can create a variable for this. Right click it, promote to variable, sprint alpha play rate. And now let's set it to, I don't know, maybe 7 can be quick enough. Let's press shift, maybe too quick. 5. Yeah, that's better. Any questions thus far?
Not so far, but Riso Gaming was asking like if this logic also works for a third-person shooter, which I believe it is, but I would like to know your answer.
Yeah, it should be exactly the same. The third person would probably use a character component, and that's what we're using to change the speed and everything else we have created along the way. So you can also use it. And the animations, yeah, it should be also the same. Instead of having the camera like near our gun, it shouldn't matter that it's floating around. So now let's, I mean, we have the sprint mechanic, but maybe we're not feeling like we're sprinting. We're feeling that we're just going fast, right? So let's polish it a little bit. Let's add a little camera shake. So first we need to create a camera shake asset. Let's here content drawer, and I do believe we created a folder for our project. Here I'm gonna create a folder called camera shakes. I don't know if we will use more than one, but just in case. Camera shakes, right click, blueprint class, and in all classes we can find the camera shake base class. Camera shake source, no, we do not need that. Camera shake base. Select, and let's call it something like CS for camera shake, and a sprint. Let's double click it, and we will have a lot of types of camera shake. First, it's asking me if I only want a single instance of it. So maybe this would probably be good if, for example, every time something explodes, you want to shake the camera, but maybe you only want one of these camera shakes, so they don't mix. So you can check here the single instance. For now, let's leave it like this. We do not have to worry too much about it. And here in the root shake pattern, we have a lot of patterns. If we want to mix camera shakes, we can use the composite. If we want to make the camera shake through a matinee, you can also do it. Purling noise, sequence camera shake, but the wave oscillator is the classic one. So we have a location if you want to shake the camera in a location. If you want to rotate it, you can also do it from here. You can change the FOV and the timing. In our case, let's just change the location. I'm gonna put it like maybe 3 on location amplitude, and a frequency multiplier for now. Let's keep it in 1. The duration, I'm gonna, for now, let's put it 5. Save it, compile, and now we want to use this, and then we can explain the amplitude and frequency. Let's first know that it's working. Let me close this blend space and the animation blueprint. I don't need it also. So first person character we have here. We want to start shaking the camera whenever we start sprinting, and we need to stop shaking it whenever we stop. So this would be a good time to start shaking the camera. To add camera shake, you just need to right click and get the camera manager, get player camera manager. You can get it like this, get player index, or if you'd like, you can also get it like this, get controller, and then cast it to player controller. And here you should have the player camera manager, get player camera manager. These are two ways of handling this. This will be useful if you are doing a multiplayer game, but that is a split screen. And this will be useful if you're doing any other type of game. Single player will work okay, and multiplayer games, online multiplayer games, will also work okay because the player index will be always 0 unless you're using a split screen. So let's use the not complicated one. And here I can do a start camera shake.
A side note, I think split screen double camera shake will be chaotic.
Yeah. it can be. Start camera shake, and here in the get, I'm gonna press stop camera shake. Now I'm gonna put these values like this. I'm gonna clean the nodes later, so don't be scared. Reverse. And here we need a shake class. We just created a shake class. Camera shake sprint. We can change the scale if we need it to. And here in stop camera shake, we need to select which asset we want to stop. This is an object reference, so we need to pass it this camera shake. Here is returning the object created, so let's promote it to a variable and call it sprint camera shake ref. And we have it like this. And here in the stop camera shake, we can pass it the reference, so it's working properly. Now let's see if it's working really properly. Let's save it, compile, play, and whenever we sprint, well, the camera is moving. So it's working. The thing about it is it's stopping immediately, and it will be really apparent if I crank up the values. So if I stop sprinting, it's doing that snap, and that snap is not good. So let's uncheck immediately. Play, and it's a lot smoother. With, well, I do not want the value to move in X, so here in X I'm gonna set the amplitude to 0, and let's explain some of it. Because we're using a wave oscillator, it means that we are using a little thing called a sine wave, that it should look something like this. So our waves start and then go up and down and like that forever. This would be a value of 1. This should be a value of -1. The amplitude will be how high is going, right? This is a multiplier, so it's always gonna be 1. But if the multiplier is 10, then this curve is getting bigger, a lot bigger. And the frequency will be how frequent the wave will change. So instead of being, for example, this could be 1. If we have a higher value, then our frequency will be higher. So it's gonna be something like this, and with one color is really not understandable. It would be something like this. So that's what I'm modifying here, the amplitude and the multiplier. So let's change the multiplier to 5, play, and the camera shake should be a lot more harsh. Let's put 3. Maybe 5 is too much. Let's go 3 and 3. Yeah, that seems better. So if I'm walking and I'm pressing the camera shake, then it's moving a lot more. It's moving around a lot more. And let's tweak some values. Maybe why I do not want the full 3. I just want the half of it. So now it's jumping a lot more in the C value, that it can be up and down. And you can see that if I'm still sprinting, the camera shake ends. So here in the duration, it says 0 or less means infinite. So let's put it 0 or less. Let's put it -1. But whenever we play, the the camera shake stops immediately. So it's not working in Unreal Engine 5. So let's, instead of the duration being too low, let's maybe put it like 6 minutes or 10 minutes. You won't probably sprint 10 minutes, so the camera shake will still work. So now we have this cool looking sprinting. And yes, the arm is passing through. So yeah, what can we do? Oh, and we can also tweak the blend in and blend out. The blend out, I want it to be a little more faster, so it ends faster. So that's great. Perfect.
Nice. It really feels like sprinting now after the camera shake.
Yeah, it adds a lot of it.
I mean, we added the logic long time ago. Technically, we're running faster, but it's very important to make all these little details like the animation and then the camera shake to actually feel that you're running. It's just not a matter of adding the code and you run faster and that's it. Otherwise, it will feel so strange.
Yeah, and it remembers well, it reminds me of a saying that I'm not sure if I can translate it correctly, that if you're a good guy, you don't just have to be a good guy, you need to look like a good guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, even though everything is working properly, if you don't add that little spiciness of the camera shake or some other, we could press if we added some particle effects, like we're going faster, like those lines that you find in a lot of action movies or action
Oh, nice.
animes or cartoons. Yeah, that helps a lot also.
Yeah. While we're on this, Rizzo Gaming had a question. Like, if you have a floor, some nice camera will shake automatically or not. Oh, so okay, so if the ground is bumpy, then the camera will shake automatically. Uh, yes, actually,
Yeah, you can
it
find it
should.
with stairs, and I don't know if I can create stairs like with the BSPs.
Maybe there is a starter content already in the package. Maybe.
Oh, let's see,
If not,
starter
we can
content.
add. There's
Do I
no
have?
stairs in the starter content. Maybe.
Ah,
There you
yeah,
go.
yeah. Let's duplicate it. But yeah, it's usually easier to see with the stairs. I'm not gonna press sprint, but my camera. Oh, they don't have the collision. Why?
It didn't came with collision. You can just do the auto convex or complex collision.
Yeah, I'm gonna use the complex collision. Let's find it. Collision complexity. Use complex collision. A simple, safe play. Maybe they are too.
It doesn't look very much. But yeah, to answer the question, we actually, like, if you don't want the player to have the camera shake, like I remember when I was working in a Ubisoft game, like in Immortal Phoenix Rising, the player can climb the roof, and in order to fix the camera shake, because the roof is like, the Chinese roof is like a lot of bumpiness, so
Yeah.
it like shakes. So they actually have a special collision for it. Like you make it flat so that the player actually move very smoothly with no collision issues. But actually, that kind of collision will consider it's like another two types of collision. One complex collision with actually the bumpiness like goes up and down, and then the normal collision to make the gameplay smooth. So you have best of the both worlds. There is another type of collision, like for example, you have a window and you don't want the player to get through it. So what you have, but you can use the arrow, you can shoot. Let's say you're making a first person shooter, but you don't want the player to jump through the window. Can actually put a collision especially
Oh,
for the bullets. So the player stops, but if the player shoots, then the bullet will go through because there is no collision there. So actually, we can have several types of collisions, and I believe we can modify the behavior in Unreal, like if this type of collision can do some kind of camera shake or just block some type of objects, especially in shooter games where things should be pretty accurate. It's very frustrating where you're shooting next to a fence and it should go through, but it's like the collision is all of it because it's just an alpha.
right. But yeah, with I scale the stairs and you can see the shakiness of the camera a lot better. And with working with the sprint, it's almost not noticeable. Or well, I guess you can notice it.
Yeah,
Great.
I can see it. But yeah, it will automatically change it. Of course, you don't need to do any setup. As long as the collision is complex enough. If you simplify it, then you won't be able to see the camera shake.
Yeah, let's return this collision to normal, just in case. So let's continue. We already did the sprint. We added the animation. We added a little polishing. What we wanted to add was the um, what was it? Reloading. Yeah, reloading. That's right. So let's do that. In order to do the reloading, we need to have in mind like what do we need, right? We want it whenever we're playing to have a number here, like I don't know, 30 of 120. So whenever we fire, we need to reduce this number. And whenever we reload, we need to reduce the total, right? That should be how it usually work. I'm not a shooter expert, so just take that in mind. I'm just going from whatever I remember, and yeah, let's create it. We first need to remember also how we're handling the gun, because if we have a blueprint of our gun that represent this gun, this object, then this is the one that is probably handling all the damage and the reload speed and everything else. So let's check how we did this, because I do not exactly remember. It should be in our main project folder, core, gun, and we have a bullet and we have the gun component. So we have a component that it's doing all the logic. So let's Let's keep using the component because here we have the range, the damage, if it's automatic, the fire rate, that we can make it shoot really fast, I believe. Yeah, yeah, perfect. Let me close shoot, stop shooting, start shooting. Okay. If you want to know more about this class, we created it, I believe, 2 streams ago, or one. Yeah, it was the yeah 2 streams ago. So we need to add the max bullets that we have, right? So we need a variable that it's called max bullets. And I'm gonna make it an integer because we do not want to reload half a bullet. Then if we have a max bullet, we need to have a current bullet so we know which is our current value. So let's do that. Current bullets. For now, this will be okay. Let's set up our max bullets to be 120. And our current bullets can start in 0 because maybe if it's a survival game, you want to start with 0 bullets and you want the player to find some ammo. We need to set up the current bullets though somewhere. So let's create a function. Let's add the code here. For example, it should be something like this: current bullet set, and it will be max bullets. This function, well, this code should be in a function, so let's cut it, create a function, and set starting values. Weapon values should be better. Oh, I'm calling weapon or gun? Gun values. There it is. And now we can call it here in our begin play. And it should be before calling the event call on gun creation. Set up starting values. I don't remember why we're using this, but it seems to be like it like because it's being called at the end, then I should probably maintain that. So let's add a sequence node so I do not mess with the execution order. Sequence, and it will be always called at the end. I don't remember what I did with this event dispatcher, but if you rewatch the stream that maybe Mauricio can link, then you will know what this is all about. So with this, we are setting our current bullets to be the max bullets. Perfect. Now we need a way to show it to our player, and that's through a HUD. So let's create a HUD. Let's go to the content drawer, and in my project folder here in Project Bright Future, let's add a user interface, well, a new folder called UI. And maybe not. A HUD is a core part of our game, and it's really related, really close with the character and with the player. So let's go to core, and here let's create a folder called player, because it's something really core to our game. So player, and I'm gonna create the HUD here. User interface, widget blueprint, widget blueprint, WBP, HUD. And I'm gonna call it first person. Oh, player HUD, it's gonna be a better name. Now we have our widget editor, the Unreal Motion Graphics editor. We need to show a number with the current bullets and the total of bullets. So let's do exactly this. Let's drag and drop this simple text block widget. And I'm gonna also add 3 of these. One will be our current bullets, so 0. This will be just a separator. And I'm gonna click here on size to content, even though that will change. And here I'm gonna put the total bullets. I do not want to have to line up everything every single time I change a value. For example, if I select all of them and modify the font to be a little bit bigger. Maybe I want 40. So what I can do is select one of them, right click it, and wrap it with a horizontal box. So it's easier for me to handle this. This horizontal box, if I move it, you will see that not everything is following it. So I need to drag and drop it on top of the horizontal box. And now it's been automatically arranged inside this box. I want this number to fill this part and this other number to fill it, so they can share the space appropriately. This middle one, it's okay if it's auto, because I just want it to be in the middle. And I'm gonna select the 3 of them, place center vertically and in the middle. So now they will stay in the middle. Now I need to change the anchor points, because if this becomes a game for mobile, I can drag and drop this here. And my bullet indicator is not scaling correctly, so let's fix that. I'm gonna select the horizontal box, gonna go to anchors and select the right bottom corner. And now it should be fine. Now that we have anchored it to one side, if we modify it, for example, to portrait, then it's gonna scale properly. Now, we want to show this. Let's do it in the, for now, we can clean it up later, but for now, let's go to a first person character. And in the begin, let's add it on the begin play. Begin play. And we can do a stream where we talk about the gameplay framework and where we should put all the logic. But for now, let's not bore everyone. Let's create a widget. At first, it's more important to know how to do stuff. But as you get into more serious project, it becomes more important where to put stuff. Because everybody will know how to do it, but not everybody will know how to structure it. So now we have selected our widget. And now we want to show it. So let's add it to the viewport.
Is there any experience you remember where you add the right function in the wrong place? And why is that important?
Well, it's really important, and it has happened a lot. It happens more frequently that you would think. In the last project even that I worked, because some things were not that accessible. For example, And this will be a good example. I created the widget in my player, right? Let's say we want to change player. We won't have this widget because the this pawn, this character, won't be used. So if I change the game mode, no, I deleted my code. If I change the game mode, player game mode, to the third person one, then this first person character, if I use the default pawn and I play, I lose completely my widget that I created. So if I wanted to use it, then I can copy and paste the code, but every time you copy and paste, you are usually breaking a sacred rule in programming that it's called reusability. So the correct way to set up this type of HUD should be using the HUD class that we have, so we can move it there so it's better. Let's say that we do not want it to create here. Let's just cut it, delete the begin play. Let's go to the HUD. In my game mode, there is already a HUD, so let's search it. Double click the HUD, and this HUD is already drawing our texture, our crosshair. So we can put it here, begin play. The same code should work fine. Begin play, and here I can create the HUD. Why is this useful? Like I said, if we change the character to maybe the default pawn, we will still have the functionality of the HUD, so they are interchangeable. And also, if we wanted to, for example, and we're gonna do this right now, that we want to access the information of the current number of bullets and the total number of bullets, right? But if we wanted to access it, then what you would probably do is, for example, this will be the max number of bullets, so let's call it max bullets, and db from text block. It's gonna change, so it's a variable. Let's go to the graph, and I need to change this text like this. Set text. And if I wanted to get it from my character, then I would need to ask for get player get player pawn and cast it to my first person and get the component. And if we change the character, then we need to change this cast. Having it in the HUD is easier because we just need to get the player pawn. Like this could be exactly the same, but we just need to get the controller, or we don't even need to get the player pawn, because in the gameplay framework you have the controller, and inside the controller is the HUD. So we just need to get the player controller. We do not even need to know the class of this controller. We just need to know the HUD, get HUD. And now with the HUD, I can get I just need to cast it to my HUD, first person HUD, and I can start changing values. Get player controller, or also we will see how to do all of this right now, so it doesn't end up floating around. But it's easier to manipulate data and change data if you know the conventions on where it's usually stored, than just put it in anywhere you want.
Which basically comes from experience and failure, and learn from your failures, and do a lot of projects to know where
Yeah,
to put it.
at the end of the project, you will have a lot of ideas on how to make it better, and you don't really need to redo everything. You just need to make your peace with your project and have and note everything that you want to change. So in the next project, you can be better. So the thing about learning how to structure things is just to keep going forward. Whenever you get stuck, you really don't need to fix everything you have done thus far, because you didn't know, right? You're learning constantly, so you don't have to get discouraged if your structure is faulty. It's really a learning process of just making more stuff, breaking more stuff, and in the future making it better.
True. Apply for everything, I guess.
Yeah, I believe. But in code, there are really perfectionist people that don't want to add a new mechanic unless everything is working perfectly. But at the start of a project, you really don't know what you need, so it's not a good mindset to have at first.
Yeah, happens a lot in 3D too. A lot of people don't want to decorate the levels until they know exactly what will be the pipeline and all the tech behind to support. But at the beginning, you don't know. Nobody knows. So you just
Yeah.
make mistakes. Welcome to the real world.
So let's continue. Let's continue. It's gonna be also learning experience. So we created the HUD where we needed to create it in the HUD class. This HUD class is being defined in the game mode that I just closed, and I already regret it. Here it is, first person HUD. So we need a way to communicate to the HUD so we can change this value. The way we're gonna do this is, and we also have to change this other value, let's call it text block current. I'm gonna put it current clip because this will not reflect the current ammo. It's just the current clip for now. And this is also a variable. Let's go to the graph, and in the graph, let's create functions to update these values. So let's create a function to update max bullets. And I'm creating functions because they really help you in the at the end, and you will see how we can mix and match all this functionality. But it's good. It's better to have a lot of functions than having a lot of code that it's being repeated. I could create it also like a custom event here, and whenever I'm repeating it, then I could change it to a function, or depending on what the value or the event will do, I can change it to a function. But it's just a matter of preference, and it really depends on the project, because the project will be like, you could have a preference, you could like functions more, but some things you can't and can do in functions. So let's do it. Update the bullet, max bullets, set the text, and I could put it like this and do the update through a text, but I want to receive an integer value here, so I'm gonna change it to an integer. So I'm not receiving any type of value. I prefer to convert this integer to a text in my widget than receiving the text and converting it anything anywhere else. So update, I'm gonna want the new value, and I'm not calling it new max bullet because the name of the function already tells me that I'm gonna update this value, so it's okay like this. I'm gonna duplicate it, update max bullets, and I'm gonna put update current clip, and I'm gonna change this widget reference like this. Just drag it and drop it on top, and that's fine for now. So now let's update the values because they are showing 0 right now. We need a way to tell the widget, this widget blueprint, to change the value, to update. And we should go to our gun component, and for example here we're setting a starting gun values. We should update the max values of the bullets and the current bullets. So this would be a good place for it to update the HUD. So I could get, and this is where a good structure helps with the easier way to change something or to make blueprints communicate with each other. For example, if we created the widget here in my first person class, from my gun component, because it's a component of this class, then I would do something like this. Get owner, because the owner will be my blueprint, my first person character blueprint. I could cast it to the first person character, and here I will have the HUD. And I need to change exactly this HUD, but I do not have a variable that is storing the value of my HUD. So let's create this value. This is in the first person HUD. Right click it, promote to variable, HUD ref, and now we have something like this. And I'm gonna do exactly, I'm gonna create it and create the variable in my first person character also. So I can do the little example, create the variable. Okay, that's good for now. Now in the gun component, I can close my camera shake. If I create it in the first person character, there is no other way than casting it to a first person character, then getting the HUD ref, and here updating the max bullet like this, and the new value would be the max bullets. And I should also update the clip, so let's do it something like this: update current clip. No, that should be the current bullets. Yeah, something like this. But the thing about doing it like this is that before I compile, let's go to the, and this could be a little more advanced, but let's go to the reference viewer. Here my component, to the right, to the left side is all the classes that uses that component. For example, this component is being used in the first person character and in the first person example map. And to the right side is all the classes and the assets that the component needs for it in order to work. And we can also go to assets, size map, and we can see the same exact references, but we can see how much the size of them. For example, in my disk, my gun has 8 megabytes for this texture, and it can get a lot bigger. If we change it to memory size is the size it will take in my RAM. So I mean, it's fine right now because it's just 34 megabytes. But whenever we reference an asset like this, or like this, then you add more references. Here, we aren't using the first person character, so we can use this gun component for any type of character. And whenever we use it, we do not need to load this first person character into memory. If I compile and save, and let's use Alt-Shift-R to see the references, now we see that our references have added our widget, that it could be fine because the widget should be really lightweight, but now we're adding a character class. So every time we use this component, this character class, even though maybe we delete it later, it will be still used. Which means also that if we go to the size map, now it isn't 32 megabytes, it just spiked up to 66. So every time we use this component, if the first person character is not loaded into memory, it will load. Just because even though we won't be using it, maybe we have another character that has this gun component, but it start being a pain for your memory because we have a reference that it's dragging us down, right? So this is really an optimization like sidebar, but managing your references will be like something to keep in mind for the future. This we could also make another stream for this theme because it's a little more complicated than what we just shown. So in order to avoid these references, we could also just get the owner, get its controller, get controller.
That's a super pro tip, by the way.
The owner is an actor, and any actor can't have a controller, so we need to cast it to a pawn or a character. Maybe a character would be better. Cast it to a character. The character will have a controller. We want it to be a player controller because any AI won't have a HUD. So get controller, cast to player controller. And even though I'm casting here, the character class is a base class done in C++ and it's always loaded. Player controller is the same. We're always using a player controller. So these are classes that are the foundations of the gameplay framework. So we really don't need to worry too much about casting it. And the player controller will have my HUD, get HUD. And now we can get the same reference, get HUD ref. I need to cast the HUD, cast to first person HUD. This also would be okay because probably the HUD, that's why we're making it separate from the character, because we want to change the HUD or the character independently. So now here I can get the HUD reference. And I do not like to work like this, where I get a reference from a class. What it is a more clean way to do it, because it will be easier to change later, is in the HUD ref. I'm sorry, in the first person HUD, you just need to create the functionality that you need. For example, I need it, where's my gun component? I need this functionality. Let's copy and paste. In my HUD, I'm gonna create the functions. This function will update the max bullet, so let's call it the same, update update max bullets. This is what it's usually called in programming a wrapper, because we are just wrapping the functionality with a function. So let's correct this like this, and the new value, I do not need to create these max bullets. We can put it like here, new value. That's okay, that's all right. And it's called a wrapper because inside my class, my HUD class, we're doing the thing that we want to do. But from my component that doesn't have anything to do with that class, I'm not getting the reference. I'm just calling the wrapper update max bullets. And I'm gonna pass it the same value here. And this is a cool way to do it because I really do not need to know how this behavior is being, well, this function is being implemented. I just need to know that it will do what I want to do. So if later this changes for whatever reason, I can change it here and I don't need to redo code in more than one class. So that's really cool. And also I want this update current clip. So let's do the same thing. Let's duplicate it. Update, and this was the clip, I believe. Current clip, yeah. Update. Now we have the wrappers correctly connected. Now gun component, it needs to do both of these stuff, update current clip, and that should be, for now we're gonna pass it the current bullets. We will need to do a little change in this logic for it to work, but we want it to work right now. So now that everything has been cleaned up, we can connect it like this. We can compile it, save it, we can check the reference viewer. We're not using the character anymore. We're using the HUD, that's fine. And now we can press play and my bullets get updated for now. Just because here in the set starting gun values, we are updating both of these. And we probably want to, we will probably update the HUD a lot. So we really do not need to redo this code like too many times. So I can right click it, collapse to function, and I just can call it update HUD. If you want to be extra, like, I don't know, go an extra step, you can divide like this part, update max bullet, and the update current clip, because every time you fire, you don't need to update the max bullets. So maybe I can do it. I just need to update HUD max bullets, duplicate it, update HUD current clip. And now in max bullet, I delete the current clip, and in current clip that I mistype, I can delete the max bullet. So now they are really independent. But in the starting gun values, I need to put both of them, HUD max bullets and HUD current clip. Perfect. So now every time we fire, we need to reflect that, right? So let's go to shoot, because Here, when we shoot, we do all the logic of the line trace and everything else. So I'm gonna add here in my sequence node, insert execution pin before, and I'm gonna do the current bullets minus decrement int. I just change the value, but it won't be reflected in my HUD until I tell it that I'm updating the current clip also. So let's press play, and now we can see that the value changes. Now, my current clip should not be like exactly the same as the max bullets. So let's create max clip and current clip. Perfect. So my current clip should be, well, 0 is fine. My max clip would be the one that I can change, and max bullet will be something I want to change from the component. So I'm gonna put it 30 here, and I'm gonna make it instance editable. Max bullet also instance editable. So I'm gonna save, compile, and in my first person character, now if I go to my gun component, I can change my max bullets and my max clip.
Oh, that's awesome. Really nice workflow to have the component there to actually. Then you can have several types of components of different types of weapons, and you just need to change the properties, and everything is just done.
That's exactly it. That's why we're doing it like this. That it can take a little bit extra to set it up, but it will pay off in the end. So now we do not want to have, like, let's press play. We're showing in my current clip the max, well, the current bullets in total, right? And we do not want that exactly, but before fixing that, we need to fix something else. And let me change my max bullets to maybe 10. And we're not right now validating if we are going past 0, right? So we need to validate that now. We have an start shooting and a stop shooting. Here in the start shooting, we're telling it to shoot. So before doing anything of this, we just need to know if my current bullets are greater than 0. And if they are, let's put the branch here. Then we can shoot. Now let's check if it's happening. And if I remain like with my click like this, it isn't stopping. But if I'm pressing more than one, then it does stop. So this timer should also check if my shooting can continue. So let's also add this validation in my shooting. Or we can also, in order to not validate more than once, let's put it in my shooting, in my shoot function. Double click here, and in my shoot function, if I have enough bullets, I should shoot. But now we still have a little problem. That, where is my start shooting? This start shooting, it shoots, and then it creates a timer. And if it isn't, then we stop shooting. But we need to call that stop shooting somewhere. I mean, it worked, but we should really get rid of that timer if it doesn't. So let's here call stop shooting, just in case. So now if I hold my fire, then it works. If I single fire everything, it also works. So it's just one validation. Now let's fix the clip thing, right? So the clip should start with the same amount of the max clip. So let's go to our set starting gun values. You can find it also here. And my current clip will be the same as my starting, where is it, max clip. Great. Save, compile. And now in my update HUD current clip, I'm not gonna give it the current bullets, I'm gonna give it the current clip. So now I have 30 of, well, 10. Let me fix that. I know I changed the max bullets. And that should be also reflected. That's also a bug. Let's see the starting gun. Here it's okay that my current bullets will be my max bullets, but my current clip, if my max bullets are less than my max clip, it should be my max bullets. So let's do it like this. Min, and let's put the max bullets here. So this way, if my, and let me change it to red because the green may not be easily seen. If my max clip, I said it was 30, but my max bullets are 10, this will get the minimum value, so this will return 10. If the max bullets were 110, then it will return 30. So that's what we're doing right here. And if we press play, then now we have support of the, in any case, if we want the max bullet to be less than the current clip for some reason, then it will work. So we see that now my clip is not updating, and that's because whenever we shoot, we are only reducing the current bullets, but we should also reduce the current clip. So let's do this. Now it should work, but I should also validate here that we need to have more bullets, like more than 0, and my current clip should also be greater than 0. And let's create a AND boolean so we can read it like this. If I have enough bullets and I have enough bullets in my current clip, then I can't shoot. If I don't, then I need to stop shooting. So now it is working properly like before. And now we can start reloading. Now that we just set this up, we need a way to reload. Let's do this right now. Settings, project settings, input, the same as the sprint. We need a reload here. I need the R button. I can just click here and select key value R. That's good for me. Let's go to my first person character. I can delete this. And here I can add a reload, input action event, and I need to reload here. Now, here we're firing, through the gun component, and we will do exactly the same. Here in the gun component, I just need to create a function called reload. And I believe I didn't mention this, but the difference between an event and a function is that anything that we put inside a function will run and execute and finish all the calculations in the same frame that it's being called. That's why inside the function we cannot put a delay node. We can't delay anything. But on the other side, an event we can put a delay node here, because an event does not makes like, it's not an invariant, like it doesn't make any promises that it will finish running in the same frame. So we can make delays here, timelines, etc. And also that is why a custom event can't return any value. Here you can only add inputs, but not outputs. In the case of a function, I can add outputs because everything will be calculated in the same frame. Just to keep in mind. So my reload would be my current clip will equal my max clip or my current bullets. So if I have 10 bullets left, then it will use 10, but if I have more, then it will use the max clip. This is as simple as I can make my reload. And I need to update the value, because otherwise I will not see it on my HUD. First, let's make use of it, and then we can update the HUD. We have created a reload function, first person character. I can drag and drop the component, the gun component, and call the reload like this. And now we have reload functionality. We won't be able to see it if I press play. R, I won't see it. But if here in my reload I ask it to update my, where is it? My HUD, then I can do it. Let's also add more bullets. Let's go to the start values, like 120, and my current max clip will be 30. Perfect. Play. I can press, then I will reload, and we have reload the value, but we need also to update the max value. So let's also add it. Update max bullets. And in the max bullets, I just seen that maybe max bullet isn't the value that I need. It's the current bullets, because the right value isn't changing when I reload, but I wanted to reflect my max total bullets. So we change it like this. Play. And now I reload, and both of the numbers update, which is, I believe, the common functionality of this, of the bullets.
That's very sweet.
And let me see what happens if I manage to reach the end. Yeah, it shouldn't let me reload whenever I reach the like a too low of a number, but It's okay for now. Those are just little tweaks that we can do. So, any questions this far?
Not so far.
Because
I'm just wondering if there is enough time to do how would you integrate the reload animation into the reload function? Is it something that should be fast?
For the reload animation, we just need to have now we are reloading instantly, I believe. We just need to add a reload time that could be based on the animation. That could be really interesting. And after doing the animation, we call the reload. That it should be really simple. Let's do that. We need a reload animation. There is no other way around it. Let's find where we have the animations here. Here it is. In the idle, maybe the idle is, yeah, it may be too slow. The fire, it may be too fast, maybe. We can, let's go with the idle. Let's go with the idle. I prefer it to be slow so it can be easily seen. We'll do exactly the same steps. I just need, because I do not have controls here, I'm not using control rig and I have not rigged this character inside the engine, then I need to animate by moving the bones. I do not recommend this, but let's do it anyway. I'm just gonna make big movements here in my, let's select skeleton tree, lower arm. I'm gonna key at the start and I'm gonna key it at 20 maybe. Yeah, 20. Key it again. Oh, it didn't. Wait a minute. I need to make sure that the translation is being moved. I could also edit the curve here. Kit, and let me see if I can. Yeah, I have a key in 20. I'm just gonna key it again and move it around. This is the translation. My bad, my bad. I needed the rotation. Rotation, edit curve. And I want, and let's go to the next. It didn't move around, but I want this value, so I can move it like this. No, it's not moving.
I think you're not previewing the right frame. If you move, like, I mean, it's moving, but you need to move that one. Yeah.
Let's go to 20 then. This will be here. Yeah, now I can see it. Yeah, if I move it from here for some reason, then I'm not getting the rotation I want. So this could take a while.
I think any kind of animation is fine as long as we show the intention that
Yeah,
yeah, we want to reload here. Of course, an animator can do it prettier and not inside this editor, but for prototyping, I think it's great anyway.
yeah. It should be a lot more easier if I could have the controls, because animating by rotating all the the bones is like going back to Stone Age. So let's say this is our reloading animation. It should be pretty visible, but just in case, let me add a little rotation in Z, like here. Let's add a key. Okay, something like this. Now let's create the animation, the asset like we did before. Doing it like this, um, like creating the animation, the current animation preview mesh, it makes it so we can't edit it later. I mean, we can return to the first person idle and edit it here and then export it again. So, but this new created animation won't be editable. You see, because all the
See,
additive
they
layers, yeah. So let's call it reload. And with a reload is a special case. And let me save this glorious animation. The reload is a special case because you want it to be able to reload while you're walking, right? You're walking, I want to reload, then we do it like this. But this means, and let me close anything that I do not need, like the HUD. Yeah, like this is fine. We can use the shortcut here to go to my animation blueprint. This will mean that I cannot use an state here, because reloading won't be a state that can globally encompass anything I do. What I mean is that I could be idle and reloading, and I could be running and reloading at the same. I could be jumping and reloading. It really will be an action that can override on top. So in this case, it already has a slot. If it didn't have a slot, we need to add one, so we can later do a montage like with the fire. The fire one is almost the same as as a reloading. We can fire while we're jumping, while we're walking, while we're sprinting. We can't fire while we're sprinting, right? Yeah. Yeah, that I should end the sprinting if that happens. So yeah. So let's do a montage, an animation montage. Let's right click here, animation, animation montage. It will ask for a skeleton. We need the arms and a new name. I'm gonna call it animation montage reload. Double click it. It's gonna ask for different types of animations. I just want my reload animation. We just need to drag and drop it. Now, this reload animation, we can see here default group montage. Yeah, it seems everything is set up like, yeah, there is nothing really special about it. It didn't change anything. So we see the reload animation, right? and it may be too slow. So here in the reload animation, I'm gonna put the rate scale to maybe 2. Oh, 1 for now. We can edit the speed later. It's gonna be fine. Now we have to use this reload animation. Let's see how the fire animation is being used. Let's go to the first person character. Let's go to the fire. Start shooting. And here on shoot, montage play. Yeah, we're gonna do exactly the same. We're gonna get the skeletal mesh, get the animation blueprint, and play a montage. So let's copy it. And in my reload, instead of just calling it like this, let's move this a little bit. I'm gonna call an animation a montage play here. I'm gonna set it up to my reload. And now I need to first let all the reload animation play and then reload the gun. So I'm gonna do it like this. Montage play. This return value is gonna be the animation montage length. So we can do a delay of this delay and then reload. Now let's see how it looks. Gonna shoot, gonna press reload, and it's not showing me anything. So I may have the default slot. I believe the other montage, yeah, is using an ARM slot. So let's use the same slot. This slot is the one that in the animation we're adding here. So if I wanted to use the default, then I need to add another slot, default slot, but I want to use the same one. So let's change the slot to slot name arms. Let's save it. And let's add the reload animation again. Reload, yeah. Now it's properly showing. Let's save everything in case it crashes. So now let's check. I press R, there is my reload animation, and when it finishes, it reloads. It can be a lot faster. That's right, reload. I can, after this, maybe I can cut the animation here on. So I can right click it, remove frames from 43 to 92. That's better. Save. We can trim the animations really quickly in Unreal. That part is really useful. And we need to re-update the animation montage because it has the time wrong. So let's delete it and drag and drop it again. Now it only lasts 42 frames. Let's check it again. And now it's a lot better. And it just reloads when my animation finishes. If we wanted to control, also we can change the play rate here. We can make it a variable. If we wanted to reload a lot faster, maybe we can put 10. And the reload is almost instantly, so maybe 10 is too fast. 4. We reload it like that. So that's how we would do a reload in any game. We also need to validate that so that we can't shoot while we're reloading. That could be a nice addition, but those are just little validations that can be added later. But yeah, that's how we could do it.
Nice. So I think that's for it. We touched the sprinting and the reloading, which makes our shooter game looks a little bit better than before.
Yeah,
Taking shape. I like it.
yeah. I'm just gonna fix it a little bit, like I said. I like to keep my inputs as clean as possible. Oh, I deleted it.
Otherwise, you will forget if you enter this project 1 month later.
Yeah, definitely. Reload input. I usually also put all the inputs, like for example this fire input, reload inputs. I'll just put it in another graph called input. So it's really easy when you put everything in the event graph. When you want to find it, then it's really mixed. But if you have an input graph, you can find everything really neatly here. So that's a way to organize your stuff.
All right.
So yeah, I believe that could be it for now. If there is not any question, I saw that someone wanted to make it so we can pick up ammo from the floor, but we can do that in a later stream. Would be really uh, good and useful for everyone, I believe.
Yeah, we can either do the pickup, the ammo, some kind of other things, or we can add some enemies and do some artificial intelligence, depending on what will people like to see. Both are fine. We will do both of them eventually. But I think the project is shaping up nicely. It will be nice to share like a shooter starter template for the people to use, so that they can watch the tutorials and they can also watch the code uh, at their own pace, and they can study and practice. That's really useful.
Yeah, yeah. Having the code, it does really help a lot. So you don't have to rewind too much or rely too much on the timestamp.
Yeah.
Yep. So
All right.
yep.
So that's that's it for me.
Yeah, it should be. How much has it been? Maybe 2 hours. Been 2 hours. Say
Of course.
yeah. It's time for a break to stretch the legs and
Yeah.
everything else. But yeah, thanks for coming,
All right.
guys.
Thank
And
you so much for staying. I will see you. We'll see you in the next one. And if you have any tutorial in mind you want us to create, then let us know in the comments. And if you are making a game, check the links in the description to get some help.
yeah, with that said, have a good one, guys. Take care.